Welcome everyone to the show. It's your boy Don Vic. We here in the building. You already know what it is, what it should be, and what it could be. Today we have two special guests coming on the show. One that's behind stage now, and we got another one coming 7 o'clock by the name of Melissa Bryan. She's a psychic, she's an actress, and award winner, and an author. So we're gonna have her at 7 o'clock. You guys tune in, make sure you don't miss it, because it's gonna be exciting. But right now, we have an amazing guest on the show by the name of Mike McCann coming on the show. He's a rock band singer, and we're going to talk to him and find out what he's been doing in the past and where he's at today in the future. Real quick, I just want to thank Doris Cochran for making this happen. Big shout out to Carol. My friend Johnny Alonzo, great friend of mine. You guys got to check out the movie Harvey. If you haven't seen it, you need to go there and check it out. It's on YouTube and I believe all types of platforms. So big shout out to Johnny and the whole cast of Irv Becker and Mr. Wynn and everybody else that's involved. And Mr. Lemire is also involved in that project. So also want to shout out all the fans and all the viewers that follow the Don Vic Show. Remember to share, because sharing is caring. All right. So, people, we're going to bring in Mike McCann, and we're going to talk to him. So, please welcome Mike McCann to the show, everyone. Mike.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. So, again, thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for giving me your time to come on the show and find out what you got going on.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to come on the show.
Yes. Everyone here is welcome on the Don Vic Show. This is this opportunity for every upcoming artist or artist that's already been on the top charts, whatever, to come on the show. And we do what we do best is connect them. I try to connect them with other artists and things on that and sort of on that line. So, real quick, tell us a little bit about you.
Sure. So I got started in music really young, and I actually spent an entire career in the military, serving in military special operations for about 22 years. And then when I finally left the service, I kind of spent about a year or two working. I was doing really well. I was director of security for a banking firm in DC when it just kind of hit me that, you know what, I've kind of done this for a long time and there's some things that I wanted to do and that was not it. So I grew my hair out and and I started playing rock and roll guitar and started kind of following my gut on things and just kind of following my passions and now it's brought me to your doorstep.
Right. So before, like, I read like some of your profile, like you let go like a six-figure opportunity to proceed your music career.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was making well into the six figures, and it wasn't necessary. It wasn't my wife's first choice for me to do, but but things have kind of worked out. Right. And balanced out, and we're pretty happy with that decision. So, yeah, I was doing really well. Like I said, I was director of security for a banking firm in DC, not doing poorly financially, but it wasn't really what I wanted to do. And I had already kind of given of myself for a couple of decades where this was, for whatever time I had left, I wanted to start living for me.
Right. And, that's just proves, where your heart, when your heart calls for something, when you can be in a position to have a position making six figures, but if that's not what your heart really wants you to do, you're not comfortable doing what you're doing until you do what your heart tells you to do.
Yeah, you're not going to be happy. And right. And I think, you mentioned a friend of ours, a mutual friend of ours, Johnny Alonzo, a little bit ago. And Johnny's a perfect example of that, a guy who's really followed his passions throughout the years. Doris and Carol as well. And I think it's interesting, when you're living a positive life and living, an authentic life, you tend to come into the orbit of other like-minded individuals, and
Right.
it just makes for a more positive and a more authentic life experience. At least it has for me.
Right. Right. Did did that choice you make, did that interfere with your relationship?
Oh yeah, I mean it was a real difficult. It wasn't an easy decision for to make, and there were times, especially early on, when uh, you know it was not easy. We have, my wife and I have we have a blended family, so we had two girls that were at the time probably 14 and 10,
Okay.
and another boy who and a boy who was about 9, and so it made things not easy, and over time we learned to adjust, and part of that was my intention and my belief is that you can't teach your children how to be if you're not being it yourself. And when it came to the life lessons, kind of the things you were just talking about of what's important in life, I felt like if we were just pursuing the almighty dollar, which I could have made a tremendous amount of money going other directions, it would not necessarily have been the lesson I was trying to teach our children, you know.
Right.
And I wanted them to see that they could follow their dreams and still be successful,
Right.
at the same time, whatever, however you want to define success.
Right. So at that point in your life, the money wasn't even in your mind. It was your happiness of becoming who you wanted to become.
Oh yeah, I will tell you, I was probably about mm, 25 pounds overweight. I had high blood pressure.
Wow.
It I was a mess. And I would
I
say
get it.
within about 2 months of just leaving it behind, um, yeah, my blood pressure was back to normal. I had started taking off the weight and started just taking better care of myself. It was just a better thing for me.
Right. And we got to understand as men and women that you know sometimes we might not agree with our partner for the choices that they make,
Right.
but you got to look at the big picture.
Yep.
What makes you happy? I mean, it's good to have money, of course, but does money really makes you happy?
Well, and that's something I recall at the time. My wife was telling me that, whatever you do, just be happy, because she was tired of having me come through the door every night with, losing my marbles, just being tense,
Stressed out.
disagreeable, yeah, and just not a pleasant person. And that's the other thing, is that what you want to teach your children?
Yeah,
You really don't want to be that guy, and you don't want to be that guy for your wife either. At the same time, I did find ways to make ends meet. I can't
right,
say that I gave up, supporting my family just so I could
right,
sit around and play guitar,
right,
but making a commitment, um, to a career that I had already kind of climbed a number of mountains professionally,
right,
in the service, that I didn't feel a need to do that again in the same vein. Going out and being the director of security is great,
right,
feels awesome. The money is fantastic, but I had kind of already done that,
right,
and I didn't see any point in continuing to do just that. Now, some people would say, hey, in fact, I had a very good friend of mine who was an attorney who said, Mike, these are your prime earning years. And I'm like, you're right. They're also the prime years where you can take all the lessons that you've learned, all the mistakes that you've made, and apply it in a way that's more beneficial to your life in the
right,
directions that you want to go.
right, right. And to me, music is a way out for me of stress, problems. Um, a way to express myself. Because sometimes, people are no good expressing themselves talking. They rather put it down as music and express their feelings through music. You know, and I think that's a very healthy way of doing it. Uh,
Yeah, I think, in the creative arts, people express themselves for a variety of reasons, in a variety of different ways. Um, and I think when it comes to music in particular, for me, there are some autobiographical songs in our catalog, but there are also, songs that I've written that aren't necessarily a release of some sort of drama or tension in my current life, as much as it may reflect, experiences I've had earlier in my life. And I'm able to now articulate that and kind of therapeutically get it off my chest. A lot of times, and I think, you were talking about spouses and partners who can sometimes have to bite the bullet in support of us. And it's hard, when I think sometimes to have to listen to a song and wonder who it may be about, or what's this situation that I've never heard of. And I think my wife has been incredibly supportive, because, it's not easy. It's not a simple thing to do.
Right. It's not. But I think happiness at the end of the day is what's important, what makes you happy. And for me speaking, I would want to do what makes me happy and come home and be able to look at my wife in the face and smile and be happy,
Yep.
and do great things, instead of walking through the door with stressed out, like, and get into a conversation with her and ends up into a argument because I'm not in my place. You know what I mean? I just feel out of place. I'm not doing what I really want to do. And I think that's important, in relationships to, be happy, do what you love to do. You can always find a way to make ends meet, you know. But the key to it is to be happy, man. Be happy and enjoy doing what you're doing. And if playing the guitar and being around people and seeing people be happy and joyful because of what you're doing, then that's fine. I mean, I don't see no problem with that.
Yeah, it's I can't say that it's always been easy and that it's always been unicorns and rainbows either. I mean, it's
I get it. I get it.
right. So when you're kicking things off, especially, it's different. When you're 17, and I remember when I was 17, my band at the time had been given a really terrific opportunity in upstate New York by a promoter to do several shows in and around the state. And at the time, I was actually 18. We were just getting ready to graduate from high school, and I kind of walked away from that. And at the same time, um, you know, the time back then was different in terms of music and how music came about and how it is now,
Right.
in terms of the industry. So when I finally came out of my time capsule of the service and decided, okay, this is what I'm going to do, I really did not understand. Had no awareness of how dramatically different the landscape had shifted from
Yes.
when I was a kid to now. And so I started this project 8 years ago. Raven Tree, the current project, the one that we have been working most recently, and um, it was really hard because at the time, even the local industry had been changing, right? So when I started playing original music, probably around 2012, um, there was still a lot of venues, and there was still at least a local or regional industry that supported original music. And that very quickly, by the time my first record was ready to come out, that had gone away. I think we had 3 or 4 venues left in Baltimore that catered or at least supported up and coming music. And um, the infrastructure that used to exist had been hollowed out, kind of like not to get into a lot of drama, but kind of like the middle class, right? We
Right.
saw a lot of hollowing out of the middle class. Well, you also see that in the middle part of everything. Whereas you have the big stars that have been established under the corporate music empires, they're doing fine. And but just underneath that, where you used to have A&R guys and venues and everything else that
Right.
were at that middle level, they're all
Yeah.
gone.
Right. Like the clubs and stuff like that.
Yep. So that
Right.
was kind of hard, coming up. And so, when we're talking about the challenges, a lot of the challenges were trying to learn a whole new thing. Everything I thought I understood about music was gone. And
Right.
um, then it was like, now what? How do I do this? And my wife would offer me advice, and I'd be like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then 2 years later, I'd realize she was right. But those sorts of things. I think the biggest lesson takeaway was um, stop chasing what you think the industry is trying to do and just be you. Right.
Yes.
That was
Yes.
the takeaway for me, is not just about the music that you create, but how you also go about managing yourself, how you go about, getting yourself out there.
Right.
So,
Yeah. So I'm happy for technology now because now it's an easy way to get out there through social media. Social media is the new thing now. It's the new, it's basically taking over TV. Everybody's on social media, and it's a way that new artists, musicians, um, can put themselves out there and be seen, be known, put their music out. Where back then you have to either know someone to get into Sony Records, you know,
right.
um, and you can put out music and nobody really knew who you were because we didn't have the technology today where you can go on a live, say TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, like we are now, and actually people know who's behind the song, you know.
Right.
So in a way, it's good, and in some ways are bad. But
Yeah, it's interesting. So my bandmate and teammate and partner in all things musical, Phoenix, and I were talking about this recently. Um, and something, it was kind of like something clicked. I would probably say about 2 months ago in my head, and it's nothing new. It's not a new idea or a concept, but it started to kind of, a lot of what we're talking about kind of readjusted in a perceptive, my perception on it all readjusted. My buddy and I, Phoenix and I had kind of taken a hiatus for a couple of months while we were just trying to readjust for some things at the beginning of the summer, each of us in our own lives. And what I started to recognize is something that human beings, we still accept, we still connect to things, we still need to find music in particular. And music is still spread, your favorite bands are still spread word of mouth. I watch my kids do it, right? um, it's how they find the music is what's interesting. And I think all of us in the last 10 years, I would say 15 years, trying to adjust to the digital domain, we have, it's hard when everything is the Wild West to figure out, a
yes,
way that's consistently going to support what you're trying to do. And we saw, the advent
You have a call coming in. Wow.
sorry.
that's right. We saw the advent of, like you said,
Hold on,
social
Terry.
media,
Yeah, go
and
ahead.
how social media would influence things. Like, I remember at one point MySpace, and I think it was All American Rejects blew up out of MySpace, and they, as quickly as they showed up, they kind of fizzled out. And I'm sure they're
You
out
have
there.
a call coming in.
I'm sorry. This is Terry trying to call me. Let me just text him, let him know.
Sure.
Call you. I'll call you back. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
No worries. So uh, we still, human beings still share music. We still have our best friends telling us what there is out there. But music is a little more unique in that it's kind of, it's adjunctive to our lives, in that, you listen to music, back in the day in your car doing tailgaters, but it was always a part of what you were doing. And in the same way, it still is. But what people are doing is online. So how do you get your music out there where people are doing things where they will hear it. And it finally clicked that video and in general, online content that's, that are, video based content, that's the best vehicle to get music out there. People would say, oh, you got to get your music on YouTube. Well, that's true. But I'm finding, just putting your music on YouTube isn't what people aren't going to find new bands. They're going to find new entertainment. So you have to get your music into that loop, right?
Right.
And so over the last 4 or 5 months, I've been really readjusting how I approach, placing our music in the public domain. It's not just about, Facebook, which seems to be a dying platform for a lot of reasons. And Instagram is great, but Instagram again is a visual medium. It's not really necessarily where people go to find music. Same with TikTok and all of the other things.
Yeah.
So, you were mentioning the movie Harvey that Johnny Alonso put out last year,
Right.
with his team, and we were one of the bands that had music in that movie. In fact, our song opens the very first scene as the star of the movie is walking into the bowling alley, and Johnny graciously had pretty much allowed our entire song to play straight through the entire scene. It was
That was
Devil's
awesome.
Red Mistress, the title track off of our second album. And again, getting it out there, we start to see a bit of a bump with listens, streams, views, and whatnot. And we've got a few other things going on, and that's kind of how Doris and I came into contact. Was just in talking about opportunities for our music going forward, in terms of distribution and licensing and things.
Right. That's awesome. I think another way of putting your music out there is constantly trying to stay on social media. Even like when you guys are having practice, put the camera up, show the viewers what you guys are getting into, what you guys are working on. Constantly stay in front of the social media to stay consistent with the viewers, your followers, the people that love your music. So kind of like a documentary of what you're doing, you know.
Yeah, yeah. What we find, at least for us, what's worked is, people will migrate to our social media after they become a fan. So keeping people abreast. We have a Raven Tree Street team, which is a page that's adjunctive to our Facebook site, our Facebook band page, and that's where we really kind of one-on-one engage and keep folks updated. And you're right. It's one thing to get people interested, and once they've become interested and they want to connect with you, that's when social media becomes very crucial to developing those relationships. And that's really what you're doing, is you're developing relationships with
Right.
people.
Right. And so I tell all the artists the same thing we're talking about. If you're upcoming artist, you want your music to be out there, you have to you have to stay on social media. Meaning, okay, you working on a new song, it's not out yet, but you can give your viewers, your people, a sneak peek of what you're working on. Keep them engaged. Well, wow, that song sounds good. I didn't hear the whole song. I can't wait for it to come out. And constantly stay in the social media, even if you're not playing music, but you're just talking and keeping people updated. Because I think what's very important is to stay on social media, stay consistent, let people see your face, let people hear some of your music. So when they do hear it, they can put the face behind it and say, "Oh, we know who this band is." Let me search them and see what they're up to. You
Yep.
know, so I kind of tell everyone that's in my position as podcasters, same thing, and musicians. Keep your viewers up to date, because if I heard a label say, one of the a hip hop guy say from a label, he said, we're looking for artists that are consistent, right? And that stuck to me. We're looking for artists that are consistent and are constantly putting out new content, new music,
Yep.
right? And I was like, man, this guy is so right. Like, if I put a song out today, right? Say I put our song out today or a video today, I can't wait a month later to put out something else. I'm not being consistent. So if my viewers see a song I put out today and they love it and they don't hear from me for a month or two, now these viewers are like fading away from me, because I'm not being consistent. But if I drop a song today and next week I'm working and I drop, even if I don't drop a new song, but I drop a clip of what's coming new, now I'm keeping my viewers, you know, focusing on me because I'm giving them something to look at, something to hear for what's for the next project. You
Mm-hmm.
know, so it's worked for me as a podcast. I always have interviews every weekend. I got new content. I have new people, directors, actors, comedians, book writers, you name it, have been on my show and from all over the world. And I've noticed by being consistent has brought me to have um, people in the industry that are, you know, not John from around the corner, or Bobby was my next neighbor. I brought my show up to a level where I've had people from Hollywood on my show,
Right.
and that's because I've been consistent. A lot of people know who I am, um, and that's what it showed me. Consistency will bring you to a level that you won't even know that you're there, you know, to you'll sit back and you say, wait a minute, what have I done for this whole year? And you see the growth. You see the growth. You see, well, wow, I remember I started just interviewing or singing for people around the neighborhood. Now I'm in concerts. Now I'm in clubs. Now I'm traveling to Oklahoma or to a certain place to do a show.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Yeah,
mean,
I mean that's kind of so. We in getting involved and getting out there and connected to some of the video and film stuff. It brought us out to Los Angeles, right? And we met a number of people out there when the premiere for Harvey came out in last October.
right.
And out of that came these opportunities with this regional foundation, which does a lot of work with uh, opioid and other substance abuse centers, treatment centers. And they had us go out to Vegas and play
Wow.
yeah, this was this past April. We were out in Vegas doing a show. And like you said, it all of a sudden we're, having drinks and dinner with, A-list rock musicians and who are, as and terrific people. Um, I'm not here to name drop, but it was just a really wonderful time. And again, it's like suddenly it's like, okay, we're a part of, an elevated circle of performers, and that's really terrific.
Right.
I think for us, content is a tricky thing with the visual medium like yourself. You guys can get out there and generating content is it's expected and demanded. And with music, we have a little more flexibility in that, you can put out some singles or you could put out an album or you could do both.
Right.
And you can do a lot of little things. Plus, you can do video content like a podcast that has something that, like on our YouTube page, I have some behind the scenes type of videos where I talk about, how I build my own guitars and the history of some of the guitars that I've built or the custom amplifiers that I've had built for my use over the years. Those things I can do, which may not necessarily be music, but they're about who we are and what we do as musicians. So it gives us a lot more flexibility than for someone who like yourself who is so challenged with you have to be really relevant within your medium and your focus like
Right.
every week. That's got
Right.
to be a tough gig.
Yeah,
So
it is, because I have to find people to come on the show. And before when I started, it was hard because I had to find guests to come on the show. Now it's
Hmm.
a little bit more laid back because I've been doing this for almost 4 years now, and
Hmm.
I know plenty of people, and through people that I bring guests on my show, they recommend other guests to come on, like
Hmm.
Doris did,
Right. Yep.
and so it makes my job easier, and I'm grateful for that because through it I meet great people like yourself. You know, I met great um, artists like the Hammond Brothers, um, Mr. Walker. He's a rock. He's also a rock star, and I don't know if you know him, but if you don't, I would love to connect you with him. Um,
Sure.
he's amazing. He plays it. He plays that guitar you got back there. And I love to do this because I love one first. I love people, right? I love to
Hmm.
communicate people. I love to hear people's opinion, and I love to meet people. In general. And one of the things I love to do is to connect people.
Hmm.
I love to connect people with other people because you never know what can come out of that. You
Right.
know, a beautiful song, a hit, and by me seeing that makes me happy because I know I can open doors for other people to connect with other people, not just here, but even around the world because I know people around the world. And nowadays, thanks to technology, you don't have to be in the same studio to record a song with someone that's in Jamaica.
Oh, that's very true. And one of the things that Phoenix and I've done is we finally gotten to a point where we are our own production team, and we actually do that. Phoenix lives about an hour plus away from myself. I live in downtown Baltimore by the harbor,
Okay.
and he lives out in Western Maryland, about an hour, 15 hour and 20 minutes away. So we do that quite a bit, where I will write, he'll write, and then probably once, maybe twice a month, we'll get together and polish up what we've been bouncing back and forth. But utilizing technology, like you were talking about earlier, to enhance and make things efficient
Right.
is tremendous. We Phoenix and I were laughing about it the other day. It's like, yeah, making that mental shift from when I was a kid, where all the great bands took a year and a half to make a record in the studio. Well, that's because they were limited by their technology, and
Right.
things just took a longer time. And Phoenix and I can sit down and come up with some drum ideas in the computer and write my song down and get it to a 70% level, send it to him. He'll do some things on his end and send it back. And then when we think we're almost there, I go up to the studio. He and I, mainly he's built a studio on his in his own house. He's got a recording facility that we do a lot of our fun. We did the last album, the last couple of singles we did at his place,
Right.
and he produces a number of other groups. So, um, just bouncing back and forth, technology has really made things far more efficient for us to get further ahead more quickly.
Yeah, and and that's the advantage you have and I have because more for you because you're an artist, right? So the fact that you can do that, the fact that you can shoot a video and don't even have to leave your
Yeah.
house. You can
Yeah.
shoot your portion of the video where you at, send it to him, and he can add his other video, his portion, and then have an editor edit it. And you guys had never even been together to shoot the video.
Yeah.
You're in your
Well, and you know,
it's
I,
so
I
great.
learned how to do video editing a few years ago. Well, probably about 5 years ago now, and that's been one of the biggest benefits, along with Phoenix coming into his own as a producer on the audio side, is that we're kind of a self-contained unit. We've been able to produce both our music and our video content, um, hmm, at a level that is professional as well as economical. And I think that's the biggest thing. And you were talking, something you said earlier, and I was going to mention this and I forgot, was that you were talking about content and the
Right.
consistency. I
Right.
think the key there is not just putting out a consistent schedule of content, but the quality has to be there.
Yes.
People don't stick around for half-ass music,
Right.
half-ass video, half-ass anything. The people, their time is valuable to them, and they're just they're scrolling through, and if you don't have your act together, they're not sticking around to wait. You
Right.
know.
Right. Right. 100%. 100%. But all these advantages that we have today that we didn't have back then, like
Right?
like like you said, even the studio. Like back in your time and my time, we had to go find a studio, see if we had time to book time to get in there and record.
Yeah, and it
You
was
know,
very expensive.
right.
Very
Now you
expensive.
don't have to do that. You can build your own studio in your own home, record it like if you was at a professional studio,
Hmm.
and the quality sounds beautiful.
Yeah, we had somebody tell us that about a month or two ago. I was talking with some folks, and they said, your stuff sounds like major label releases. And I said,
Right.
well, it took us a long time to get there, right? Before that, we were relying on other people to do it for us, and it was very expensive.
Yes.
And you were talking earlier, you asked me earlier about challenges in my personal life when I made the transition. And one of the big ones was I spent, my first album that came out is nowhere close to the album we just put out in terms
Right.
of audio quality, but it cost me
Pretty
quite a bit
penny.
of, yeah, it did. And the second one was maybe more economical, but was still very expensive. So, as time has gone on, it's really been incumbent upon me, if I want to stay married, to find a way that's a little more affordable. And the technology's afforded us the opportunity to do that.
Right. And now it is more affordable. It's much more affordable, especially
Mhm.
when you already have the tools, which is you and your partner.
Yep.
You write the song, you guys
Yep.
promote, you guys go got their own studio to record it to. That's basically the hardest thing is to have the studio, where to record it, and the players,
Yep.
and if you already have that, then you basically got it all. You're an editor, so that saves
Hmm.
you money from going to find someone to edit your videos or
Yeah, we
or
invested, he invested the lion's share of equipment in the studio, and I invested as well additionally. But on my end of it, one of the things that I invested in was a high end DSLR camera to ensure that what we were producing was going to be of a quality that people would expect of a professional band. And there was a band, I won't mention their name, but a band that I follow, that I watched when they first started doing their stuff. They did it with webcams, right? But
right,
you could see as they became more successful, there's this point in their videography and their video content where all of a sudden it jumped like overnight. It was better. And that was one of those things where when they could afford better equipment, then they got better. They reinvested in themselves,
yes,
and that's crucial, right?
right. It is very crucial, and the more you invest in yourself in equipment, the better your stuff will be. You know, and I think that's important. And and in the long run, you can still make money with that as well because you can provide your studio, you can provide your services to someone that's coming right under. Say, hey, we can do this for you as well. There's ways to make money with what
Well,
you
and
have.
that's yeah, Phoenix. Like I said, he produces groups all the time, rock
Right.
groups. He produces beats for rappers all over the country. He does a lot of things. He's very prolific, and in terms of our musical partnership, when it comes to musicianship and just being an all around uh, world class musician, he far outshines me in every way.
Right.
I'm more of a songwriter
Right.
and guitar player. He's a musician, and it really shows in how he approaches a lot of things.
That's amazing. If What else would you find yourself doing if you wasn't doing music?
This is kind of it, right? This is
Mhm.
what I do. Like I said, I do have a day job. So does Phoenix. We have
Yeah.
to augment. I mean, music isn't really paying the bills for us yet, but
Right.
It is starting to break even, which is great. That's a big deal in
Right.
any business, right?
That's right.
So, but we're also, it's not so much. I think that the other shift from back in the day to now is, when I was younger, bands were, this is what they were, and that's all they were, right?
Right.
A songwriter, this is what they do, and they don't do anything else. And
That's
it's
right.
different now.
Right.
Phoenix and I, for example, we have a new project coming out that, you know, I think we've gone through about 90 plus songs that I've written over the last 4 years that have nothing to do with the style of music that Raven Tree is. And so after we got the third record out, and we did the premiere, we did a couple shows, and then we did Vegas. Um, Released the album on April Fool's Day of this year. And then it was kind of like, okay, we're going to, promote it online. We'll promote it word of mouth and get the content out there. But we're going to take this other music and put this out as well. And it'll be a separate project, different players and a different approach. And the music is more of an Americana blues based, think Marcus King and Joe Bonamassa and Tyler Bryant or Larkin Poe, those sorts of new modern blues rock bands.
Right.
And it's being able to broaden what you do. So it's not necessarily a direct answer to what else would I be doing other than music, as it is what else would I be doing other than the Raven Tree music. Well, this is another project that we're working on. I think, I've kind of done everything else I ever wanted to do. I did it on the front end of my life where, I've jumped out of airplanes and I've locked out of, and
airplanes.
yeah. And I've stood on the bow of a nuclear submarine underway on the outside. Right. And that's, those are things that experiences that I'm forever grateful that I had those opportunities. I don't feel that need to do anything else anymore.
Right.
I know for Phoenix, I'll never forget doing an interview, and Carol Nevin, your friend Carol, was interviewing Phoenix, and she goes, she asked the same question of Phoenix, and I'll never forget the look on his face. He was completely confused. Like, I don't even he really didn't understand the question, and he had no idea what to say. He's like, he was completely dumbfounded. He's like, I don't really, it just didn't compute for him. So, that's, I think there's a certain amount of joy and security and confidence that comes with that too, knowing that you've already done everything else and this is it, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. Are you the lead singer of the group?
I am. However, on this last record, Phoenix actually wrote a couple songs that he sang.
Okay. What are some of the songs that you guys have written?
So on the second album, Phoenix contributed quite a bit to, even though I had pretty much written the songs with the drummer on that album, Phoenix came in and had some input that changed a lot of things, but that was all me singing. On this new record, there's a song, shoot, now you're going to make me, maybe, right. I know all of the songs that, by the studio names, meaning the working titles. I don't know the actual titles.
Okay, because I looked up your name and on YouTube, and I wasn't sure if that was you, but I came up with Big Old Big One, and then I see.
So on YouTube, if you go to youtube.com/Raventree, that's us. It's
that was probably why.
Basically youtube.com and then our band name Raventree. So the songs that Phoenix sang were Escape This Place and a song called The Walker. And the song Feed Your Need is the title track, and it was the first single off that record. That's a song that I had written a couple of years ago that is now being presented to a few producers and directors for some upcoming film consideration.
Wow, awesome.
So that's off the new album. And then out of this new project, there's a song that we've pitched to a producer for an upcoming movie that I don't believe I'm allowed to talk about yet.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
it has at least 3 A-list celebrities attached to the film.
Wow.
But I've just been told to keep my mouth shut. So
Okay.
so the new project will have a new song going out and kicking off with this movie, and then this other song from the third record will be going out as well.
So you play instruments?
I do. I play guitar and I sing, and then I play a variety of instruments. So I don't actually. I've got this here. This this is a mountain. It's actually a handheld mountain dulcimer, and banjo and a few other things that I perform with that I'll record with, and rudimentary keyboard synthesizer type things I can do, but I don't perform live, that sort of stuff. I'm not that guy. And I think Phoenix plays guitar and bass, and he plays some rudimentary piano as well.
Wow, that's some. How many in your group?
So Phoenix and I, for Raventree, it's always been a 3-piece, and Phoenix came on board. It was primarily a solo project for myself up until for the first 2 years, and then Phoenix came on board after about 2 years, and it's been he and I primarily. We've worked with 2 different drummers in the studio, and then we use hired guns when we perform live, because it's just really difficult to keep a professional level drummer gainfully employed when it's live performance for us has been relatively sporadic, and it's been difficult to keep drummers on retainer.
Yeah, right. So what actually inspired you to proceed music? Was it something that you wanted to do when you was younger, or was it?
Yeah, so I've been playing since I was about 13, and I think like a lot of younger males anyway, younger guys, I know that I picked up a guitar thinking I was going to be able to meet girls if I played in the band.
Right.
But when I was in 8th grade, I remember there was a girl that I had a crush on, and she brought the first Van Halen album to school.
Oh wow, Van Halen, yeah.
Yeah, and that really kind of was like, well, maybe I should listen to this music, because if she likes it and I want to get to know her, I should probably listen. So next thing I know, it's a few years later, and now I'm running my own band and I'm playing guitar, and I'm it's that chance encounter with that Van Halen album kind of kicked off a lifetime's passion. So
Wow, that's women.
But
Women make us do a lot of things.
yeah, well, and what's interesting, you ask about what inspired. I don't know if I ever knew that it was eventually going to be this. I played music in high school, and then I didn't play really hardly at all in college, a little bit. And then I joined the Navy, and then, throughout the Navy, it's like there would be times when I would be playing in bands, or I'd be playing in sessions for other people. And as time, and I look back on my life now and I say, music is, even though I would put it on a shelf, it always seemed to creep back into being right in front of me all over again. Right. And so when it came time, when I finally had enough's enough with the BS, it was like, no, this has been pecking at me for a long time. This is something I need to pay attention to.
Wow. So. Wow, that's amazing. Is there any chance that you can play a little song for us?
Well, I don't have a guitar. I don't have an acoustic guitar with me right now, fortunately. But
okay, fine. Okay, that's cool. So, it's very interesting, to me that you know, you had that opportunity in the office, and you wanted to proceed the music, because I guess that's where your heart's at, and and it's very important. I bring this up because I just want to let the people know that you got to follow your heart, right?
You
Your
do.
heart, because the brain is one thing, the heart's another thing, even though it's all connected. But you know, your brain can tell you to do one thing, but your heart's telling you to do one. So it's pulling you either side, And
Yeah.
I usually follow my heart, and because
I think,
that's where I feel everything.
yeah, no, absolutely. I think
Yeah.
the biggest challenge, and if I have any life advice to give anyone, is try to figure out what is your heart,
Right.
because, I've seen this a lot where people really believe that they're following their passion. But when you get to know them well, it's like, look, I know that you're struggling with music and you feel like you shouldn't quit. Okay, but I also see that you're one hell of a car mechanic and you love doing that and
Right.
you're great at that and you just keep avoiding it because you don't want to. No, I'm going to do this, be a musician, because don't quit. You
Yeah.
won't be successful. And it's like, well, maybe your heart's really telling you should be a mechanic. And those are the things that, like I thought I was going to be a frogman until the day I died. And I was going to be this security guy and I was going to be just like Jack Ryan, all that BS in the movies. And I had a long career doing that sort of work.
Right.
But when I finally really started listening, it's like, no, that's not what I'm about.
Right.
Everybody else are like, I can't believe you're leaving this all behind. Well, I am, because I'm going to go do this.
Right.
And so it's what I would say is, yes, follow your heart, but make sure you know exactly, are you following your heart or are you following what somebody else says your heart should be? You
Right.
know,
Right. Right.
so it's really hard, and only you can make answer those questions.
Right. My friend Matt is saying asked Navy, what was your rate?
So
He was a CE in the CBs.
no, I was so I started out as a parachute rigger. I was in the SEAL teams for 10 of the 22 years, and so when I was
Field team.
enlisted, I started out as a parachute rigger and eventually became an intelligence specialist. And I made E6. I made first class, um, and then I got a commission as an intelligence officer, and then I spent another 12 years doing other things. Other things.
Yeah. You're a big deal. you
Well,
you
there's a lot of
you're a big deal, boy.
well, and that's my point, is that a lot of people would say that that's a big deal,
Yes.
and it is, but it wasn't my big deal. My big
Right.
deal is playing
Right.
guitar and standing on a stage now,
Yes.
and I
Yeah.
think that was always really what I wanted to
You
do.
wanted to do. Right. So when you went into this, when you went into that, when you was into the Navy or Army,
Hmm.
was the music, was you thinking about the music then, or that was after you
Oh
was
no, that was always there, and the
that was always
guys, the guys in my first platoon and my first command. I mean, even today, for example, there's a guy getting ready to retire out of Naval Special Warfare. He's been there for 40 years,
there?
40, right?
Wow.
Um, he is retiring. He called me up about 3 weeks ago and asked if I would play the Star Spangled Banner on my guitar at the commencement of his retirement ceremony.
Wow, how
So,
cool is that?
yeah, so even when I was in the teams and in the Navy, I was regarded as a guitar player. Um,
Oh,
so yeah, that's always been a part of who I am. Even if I didn't see it, others did.
right. So so there were times where you would sit there at the bass and sing your. Did you play your guitar at bass?
Oh yeah, I would. I always had a guitar with me somewhere. Um, I remember I tore my knee up on a thing, and while I had to get an operation, and then while I was waiting, while I was recuperating from that, I was out gigging around Virginia Beach,
Wow.
acoustic duos. I had joined, and then about a year or two after that, I had come back from another deployment, and I was hired to come in and play guitar for another group that was around town that recorded an album, and so it was always there. It was always a part of what I did as who I was
Right.
outside of what I did professionally.
Right. Right. So you guys have traveled to to play music.
Yes.
Um, what what place have you guys went to that embraced it you the most?
So it's funny. I would say the Midwest.
The Midwest.
We played a couple places in Ohio very early on where people really, really picked up on us. And then when we were out in Vegas, the West Coast, the West Coast folks really seemed to enjoy our music as well. So I would say the Midwest and the West Coast tend to be our hot spots, and it shows in some of the metrics that we've seen for streaming and videos and things like that.
Right.
And our fan base tends to be from the Midwest and the South as well.
Right. Right. Have you guys ever played in New Orleans? New Orleans is known for music, blues, and all types of music.
So with this new project that we're working on, that is something that we are absolutely focused. It's interesting. Hard rock music has become more difficult to book because the venues are becoming fewer and fewer, whereas blues-based Americana rock is exploding everywhere. And we're looking forward to having more opportunities to actually get back out on the road. I would say one of the more frustrating aspects of this particular last 12 months is that just as we were releasing the new record and getting ready to go and do some things, book out, we wanted to get out to the Midwest and the West Coast. It turned into $6, $5 gallon gas.
Wow.
And we just could not afford to, and then on top of that, then even rental vans, everything that you would typically be able to budget for doubled or tripled within the last 8-9 months. And just couldn't afford to get back out there. We played Vegas, and everybody's like, you guys need to come back. We want to see you guys do 10 days out here and hit all the hot spots in Vegas. We had a couple booking agents that really wanted to work with us out there. We're like, yes. And then when we were looking at the numbers, we couldn't make them work. There was just no way we could do it. Right. Whether we flew out and rented equipment or tried to drive out, the cost of everything had gone through the roof. And unfortunately, we just couldn't do it.
Yeah, and that I'm glad you made that point, because that's been a problem for everyone.
Yeah,
not just for traveling, but living expenses. Traveling, like it's crazy. Rent has gone up, gas has gone up, everything has gone up. It's everything except people's pay. So
right,
yeah, right. So it's just making it more difficult for people to live, right, and to travel, because of this high gas and the high living, of people. And I don't know how they're trying to work it, or how people budget, but for people that want to travel, like you guys that are banned and don't want to fly and want to travel, it's just so, like you said, it's difficult because gas is high, and if you're driving in anything higher than a 4-cylinder,
yeah,
right, you're talking big money,
yeah,
hundreds, maybe thousands of dollars just to get to Vegas from Vegas, driving. Um, it's just crazy. Like I just don't see the logic of it, but.
Well, it can be done. I know that there are bands that are out there doing it, but one of the things that Phoenix and I experienced very early on is we did a lot of DIY touring, and I would say by the end of 2018 we had done several hundred shows by that point between 2015 and 2018, and we've had some great opportunities. We played on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. We played the Trocadero Theater in Philadelphia. We had played, some really great shows. But, as we started to kind of look towards, okay, we see the venues diminishing. We see hard rock crowds diminishing. We're not a metal band.
Right.
And metal is as strong as it ever has been, but we're not that.
Right.
And so, our brand of hard rock is really kind of become soundtrack music more than anything else, as I was saying. And that's kind of where, it's easier to reach more people by attaching our music to a film than it is for us to try to get out there and drive all over the country anymore.
Right. It's just too expensive to do it nowadays
Right.
with this
You
gas
know,
pricing.
there's a lot of hard rock bands out there, and as a new hard rock band, it's really hard to break through the noise. I'm not making excuses. I'm just saying that it's when we're looking at what's viable for us. Getting in the van is not doable. I don't know who can do that anymore.
Right. I'm just grateful for technology nowadays that you don't have to really travel to make a song.
Right.
We can use our technology to make it happen, and with the great editors and great writers, you can make an amazing song and videos too. So I would love to introduce you to the Hammond Brothers. They're they're two brothers. They both sing. They're great, and Mr. Walker that also play pop rock. And see what you guys can come up with. You guys can talk and figure out, what type of music you guys play, and see if you guys can come up with something.
Yeah, I'd love to. I mean, Phoenix and I are going to be collaborating with a guy who, again, I can't.
Yeah.
So this guy had a #1 country song this summer.
Ooh.
I think it was on the top of the charts for like 6 weeks.
Wow.
And he's a songwriter that I've known him for a very long time as a friend. And then he just really kind of hit his stride this last year or so with really, racking up some attention. But he's going to be working with us on this new project as well, doing some collaboration. So we're always open to doing, collaborating with anyone, really.
Right. I think, and I'm just throwing it out there because I never heard rock and a country singer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just throwing it out there. I mean, I know it don't sound, but I'm just trying to put a vision of how it would work with the rock and a country singer. How would that work?
I think that's where you hit that nice in between spot. Things like
Yes.
the Allman Brothers, right?
Yes, the Hammond Brothers.
Or I throw that out there. Marcus King is probably the more visible contemporary country rock artist, blues rock artist right now.
Right.
And so there's a lot to be said. If you listen to the Stones, right? Exile on Main Street, that album, there's a lot of country influence in that. So the Eagles, again, they were the self-branded initiators of what they called country rock back in the 70s.
Right.
So we're kind of taking a lot of those influences and kind of putting our spin to it, and that's where we're going with it. I mean, I didn't grow up down south. I was born in Richmond, Virginia.
Right.
My family is from the coal mining towns of southwestern Virginia. I don't have an accent though. Neither does Phoenix, right?
Yeah.
So and his family hails from the same area. So, I'm not going to pretend to have a twang, but I am going to write the music, and we are going to write the songs, and I think it'll come out just killer.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I would love to do that. Connect you guys together and just kind of see what you guys can come up with, and maybe you guys can open doors to something new. A new sound.
Yeah, we're always playing with some interesting stuff. So we had a song called "Swing Me" that we released It was a single. It was something I had written a while back with a friend of mine in Phoenix's, and we recorded it during the pandemic, during the lockdown, because we were just refused to be locked down. And
Right,
so
right.
we met up with our players and we got the song in the studio. We tracked it and we got it ready and we released it towards the end of 2020. And it was a bit of big band swing hard rock thing. It was called Swing Me. And I think you can stream it off of, I know you can stream it audio. I don't think the video, I don't think we have it on our YouTube page. But it was one of those songs where I'll never forget. I was being interviewed for the single release, and the guy was just like, "Well, that's a bit different for you guys. How do you think your fans will take such a departure of, your sound?" And I'm like, "Well, they'll, if they're fans of us, then they'll, and we wrote it, then hopefully then they'll like it as much as we do." But it definitely seemed to be a song that folks had a hard time understanding, like you said, how did we get to that from over here?
Right.
From
Right.
Devil's Red Mistress in particular. So it was like, yeah, okay, I get it. So we're actually probably going to wind up performing that song with the new projects. It's more like that anyway.
Okay, that's awesome. So where can people find your music or find you if they want to connect with you? Is there a website?
Yep. So we have our own website, raventreeband.com. Our YouTube channel is probably the best place to hear us and see us. We have a lot of live videos on there. We've got our own production videos. We have all 3 of our albums up over there if they want to listen to it. So YouTube is youtube.com/Raventree. It's that simple. And they can hear all of our entire catalog right now. There's some behind the scenes videos and some other stuff. I think Carol's interviews are actually on that.
Okay.
They are. So Carol Nevin's interviews are on there. And then we're on all the major audio streaming platforms, including iTunes, if people want to download. And we're on Facebook. We have a Facebook page. I believe that's Raventree Official. And we have a Raventree Street Team if they're really wanting to connect with us and become interactive fans with the band. Then just send us an invite or send us a request to join the street team, and we'll approve it. And then that's where we do a lot of, like, I'll do a live stream engagement, once every couple of weeks and just talk with whoever wants to get up online with me. And, I'll put out all of our real news up to date there.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yep.
That's awesome. Well, I want to thank you for coming on the show. Thank for giving me your time. I think you're great.
Thanks, Don. I really had a great time talking. You asked right off the bat. You asked me some zingers, man, and I was just like, "Whoa, okay." No one's ever gotten that direct before. It's like, so how was it with your wife when you quit your job? It's like, well,
well, it is what it is.
It real though. You kept it real. I love it.
Hey, this is Don Vic Show. We keep it real here, 100. And the thing with the love of my show is, nothing on my show is written. Everything's authentic. I just want my viewers to be who you are, because that's who I want people to know, who know you for who you are, for being yourself, and you're great. You've been great. You've been a great guest. So thank you so much. I'm definitely going to bring you back aboard. Maybe next time next time I catch you with one of your guys and we can bring you guys aboard, or maybe I can catch you guys. I don't know, maybe in the studio putting something together, and
absolutely, we
can bring it live on the show, and we can maybe catch you next time, sing something for us on a live.
Yeah, I will definitely be more prepared for that. I was like, I think all that stuff is actually the acoustic guitars. My main one is up actually at Phoenix's studio right now. I was like,
Well, I wish you the best, man, and keep grinding, keep doing what you're doing. And next time we'll bring some of your music up and see what you got going.
Absolutely. And if any of your listeners want to just reach out, they can just, like I said, just connect with us on Facebook or shoot us an email through the website, and love to hear from them.
Cool. And I'm gonna text you over some some people that might interest you, and your partner.
Sure.
The Hammond Brothers, Mr. Walker, and I did have another country singer. Well, I think it was Mr. Walker. But I'll connect you guys. You guys figure out if you guys can work together. Or,
oh yeah, sure. It's always great just to meet cool people through cool people.
Right. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Absolutely, brother. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, everyone. This is Mike McCann, and I'll see you soon, Mike. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks. Take care, Don.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye. So, everyone, that was Mike McCann here on the show. Make sure you guys tune in. Check out his webpage. Check out his sites. Check out his music. Make sure you guys show him the love. And yeah, guys, thank you guys for tuning in and checking out the show. Tune in at 7 o'clock, and within another hour, I have another great guest coming on the show. That'll be the last show for the night with Melissa Bryan. She is an actress, a sidekick, an award winner, an author. This woman she's doing so much. So we'll have her on the show at 7 o'clock. Make sure you guys tune in and share, because sharing is caring, and you already know what it is. It's your boy, Don Vic from the Don Vic Show, and I'll see you guys at 7 p.m. Peace, love, respect. I'm out of here.